So thanks everyone for coming. If anyone is having trouble hearing me or seeing the slides, please do say so. The presentation today is about how to leverage grant funds for international marketing. I'm Angie DeYoung. I'm with the Montana Department of Commerce, the Export Montana program, and we have a lineup of some other Montana companies who have used several of our programs to help them get started or to expand into international marketing. So we'll go through some of those programs today and hear what they had to say about it. The sponsors of the presentation today are Export Montana, my office, and the U.S. Commercial Service. That is our federal colleague, Carrie Hester, is on the line today if anyone has questions for him, and our Montana District Export Council. And Diana, if you want to unmute and tell us a little bit quickly about the Montana District Export Council.
Hello, everyone. Please let me know if you can't hear me.
Sound good?
Excellent, thank you. My name is Diana Gagel. I work for the Tow Haul Corporation, but I'm this year's chair for the Montana District Export Council. We're a group of volunteer business people that for manufacturers and companies that export products throughout the world. I'll tell you a little bit about our mission statement. Well, I'll just read the mission statement so it makes sense for everybody. The Montana DEC, that's the acronym for District Export Council, will support Montana exporters and provide a collective Montana exporter voice to advise on export educational needs and disseminate education opportunities to its collective networks, and to advise policymakers on export policies under consideration and provide suggestions for future legislation. We advocate for exporting in the state of Montana. We have a really great group of people. We could always use more, of course, but due to the volatile market conditions that we've been seeing in the last couple of years, it's important to have a network of people that we can reach, have good conversations with, understand what each of us are going through, and have a collective voice to both through the state of Montana, Department of Commerce, as well as just internally to our own group of exporters. It's not always, we're kind of a rural state, and it's nice to have that collective network.
Thanks, Diana. If anyone is interested in learning more about the District Export Council, you can contact me and I can share some information with you about the membership, etc. Before we hop into talking about international marketing assistance, the Montana Department of Commerce does have a transition program where a company is looking to increase their market domestically outside the state of Montana, but it maybe isn't ready for international yet. We have this program called the Trade Show Assistance Program. It's a 50% reimbursement up to $3,000 for exhibiting at out-of-state trade shows for the first time, or re-upping after 3 years. And with the way things have been going with COVID, I think that's going to make a lot of people re-eligible. And so we do have this small program that can help bridge the gap between selling in Montana and selling internationally. The good news is that Montana was awarded for the ninth year in a row a large grant from the Small Business Administration through the STEP grant program, the State Trade Expansion Program. We received more than $750,000 for this coming federal fiscal year, which is October this year through September next year. So we're going to spend pretty much the rest of this time discussing what the STEP grant can help pay for, and then how our team can help you use those funds. Firstly, if you're just getting started with international, or if you are have been successful in one market and you're looking for your next market, there are 190 plus countries to choose from, so it can be difficult to kind of narrow that down to exactly which countries you want to look at, which markets you want to look at. And so the STEP grant and our program can help connect you with some resources to do that international market research. There is a program called the RAISE program. It's an acronym for Rural International Assistance. And it's run through the U.S. Commercial Service, which our colleague Carrie Hester is on the line now. And it's a short-term process that helps walk you through specific market research for your product and your particular markets. And the result is that you get a report at the end that tells you what your top 10 markets are, and then talks about what some of the advantages are of those markets and some things to look out for. And the good news is that the STEP grant will reimburse 75% of the cost of that research. And Montana, to date, is currently the top state that uses this program. And so we're really proud of that. It's a nice partnership with our District Export Council. We also have a program, the STEP grant will help pay for, reimburse you for participating in the U.S. Commercial Services International Company Profile, which is a due diligence service, their International Partners Search, which is a sort of a helping you get a list of potential future distributors or buyers. And then the Gold Key service, which is an introduction service. And our STEP grant will reimburse 75% of the cost of that. We've got one of our District Export Council members, Kyle Lukes, on the line. If you want to unmute yourself, Kyle, and tell us a little bit about how you used the U.S. Commercial Service Program and the STEP grant to get out there and get into new markets.
Great, happy to do that. I've used the International Partner Search and the Gold Keys multiple times each, so I've got a little bit of experience, and what I'm going to do is just tell you three quick things. What are they? What are the pros and cons? And what is my recommendation, or what I call must-dos if you're going to employ these services? These are both market entry services, and when you talk about the International Market Search, or the International Partner Search rather, that's focusing on a search component, but you can also marry in a virtual introduction into that. And that becomes then a two-step process. If you talk about the Gold Key program, that's kind of all wrapped up into one. And the key difference, of course, is you're traveling to that country and you're doing the face-to-face meetings. And everything is condensed and put on the calendar for that time that you're there. And so it's different in that you're there and it's a one-step process. As far as the pros and the cons, in regards to the partner search, the pro is that the initial emphasis is really on the partner search, which forces you to really clearly define who your target potential customer is, or your target potential distributor. It then takes a second step. If you do the virtual introduction, it makes it a lot more effective because that commercial specialist who's assisting you has a lot more clarity on who your prospective distributor would be and who they wouldn't be. As far as the cons, looking at the Gold Key, it takes a lot longer than a traditional Gold Key does because that partner search is rather ambiguous, where the Gold Key is locked on a certain time. And currently with the situation we're in, we have a lot of work from home environment people, which really means that things take a lot longer and kind of drags out. Both of these are very effective. I think they're instrumental. I highly recommend them, and Angie's support through the STEP programs make these things outrageously affordable. So if you haven't done these before, I highly recommend it. If you do, these are what I call the must-dos, and this comes from doing quite a few of these. Number one is pitch your product to somebody outside the industry. And I say that because keep in mind that while you have specialized knowledge within your industry and within your product category, that commercial specialist who's going to be the person that talks to the initial distributors for you to line up the meetings, they do not. And so you have to kind of keep that in perspective and make sure that whatever message you have can be boiled down to its most simplest and repeatable format while still retaining your benefit and your competitive advantage. And I recommend creating what I call a list of talking points and make it simple. Number 2 is sell yourself to that commercial specialist. Remember that there's almost, consider it like you're being interviewed as if they want to take you on as a client or not. So I use that attitude to make sure that I'm really trying to put myself in the best light and talk about what is it I'm going to do and how we support our distributors. I'm going to travel over there and work with them. And these are all the things we do. Because at the end of the day, I feel that they're determining whether they want to do one of these programs for me or not, or whether they put me at the top of the list or the bottom of the list. So I want to make sure that I put myself in the best light possible. 3, suggest and clarify a game plan, just to give yourself a real clear roadmap and then there's no ambiguity. Number 4, very clearly define your target prospective distributor. If you're doing a gold key and not the virtual partner search, then really put a heavy emphasis on this. This will pay very rich dividends. Number 5, translate all your documents. It just blows my mind. Every time I do this, I get complimented on it. Distributors really appreciate it. And it's uber simple. You can just go online to upworks.com. You can hire somebody in your target country, somebody who's perhaps a university teacher who has a lot of experience, and you get a great translation for a ridiculously low price. And then finally, last thing is when it's all over and done, go back to that commercial specialist. Preferably this is over coffee when you're in state, when you're in their country, and you can look them face to face. But if not, however it might work out, make sure that you ask them, hey, what worked? What didn't work? You know, on my next gold key or my next virtual partner search, what can I do differently to make this easier for you? Or where did you find some really rough spots that I should focus on to make this work better in the future? Because keep in mind, they're the ones doing the work for you to find your distributors. So the better job they do, the better business you're going to have. So that's it. Thanks, Ange, for the opportunity, and I hope this is helpful to everybody.
Yeah, great information. Thank you, Kyle. The thing that I like the most about companies working with the U.S. Commercial Service is how easy it is. Simply from your desk, you can connect with any of the U.S. Commercial Services offices overseas, and you can talk to them about, is this a good market for me? Do I have any potential buyers in this market? If I get an email from a buyer who would like to order, have a big order, and I'm a little nervous because I've never talked to them before, I can actually use those in-country offices to conduct some due diligence to check out that potential buyer and make sure that they're legitimate. All for very, very inexpensive cost to you, and then the STEP grant can come in and reimburse 75% of that. Carrie, I know you're on the line. Did you have anything to add to that?
Excuse me, Angie, was just unmuting myself. Thank you. Kyle, your presentation is very good. I would re-emphasize Kyle's to-dos list. I think Kyle is right that one thing you want to do when you start out is one best practice Kyle and I have put together is contacting the international trade specialist overseas and telling them exactly what we want to do, what Kyle refers to as selling the commercial specialist on the product. I think that's very, very useful. Often the trade specialist will not be aware of what your product is, may wonder whether there's a market. So if you do that before commencing the actual research and whatnot, and you get the commercial specialist on board, get them eager to get out there and work for the client, that's a really critical part. And for anybody that's interested in doing that, I can kind of explain that that process to them offline, or perhaps we can use Kyle and ask him to do some mentoring for anybody that's considering that program. But that's really a critical part. And the last part that Kyle emphasized as well, the post-service interview to tweak your presentation or your approach to the commercial specialist. Find out if the materials you supplied were useful and helpful to the commercial specialist when they were doing their outreach in the target market that you want. I think those two points that Kyle brought up are critical. And with that, I think I'll let you go. We'll just continue on. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. And Kerry is posted in Montana, so he'll be your first point of contact for working with the U.S. Commercial Service. So it's nice to know that you've got somebody down the road who is there to help connect you with any office overseas. The next program that the STEP grant can provide reimbursement for is for international e-commerce or international website globalization. This is a fairly new program. I think this is the second year that we've had this available, possibly third. But it's become more and more important as COVID has made travel more difficult, or at least less reliable. A lot of companies have been looking to getting their websites globalized and making sure that their e-commerce is international capable. And so the STEP grant can help pay for website translation or search engine optimization or any sort of localization services. It can work for mobile app integration. It can work for setting up your web store, translation of any of the audio, video, setting up to receive the payments or the orders, or something like Amazon services or Rakuten overseas. Now you can use your own contractor as long as that contractor, well, you can do whatever you want with it, but for the STEP grant purposes for reimbursement, if you want reimbursement from the STEP grant, you would have to use a third party we can't reimburse you for in-house work is basically how that works. So if you have your own contractor, you can use them, or you can use a program that we call Montana Online Global. And that program has a specific contractor who's based in the USA but has offices all around the world. And they have given us a contract rate, a package rate for this entire process. And they can also add on international digital marketing as well. And so we can connect you with that contractor and they can get you started on this process. I think, BD, are you on the line? He must not be. I know he was unsure if he was going to be able to make today, but one of our deck members with SADC USA has used this program and gotten some really good results from globalizing their website. And the term website globalization is a fairly new term, well, at least it was to me. And it's the process of not just, I have my company.com website and I'm going to have a Spanish page, a French page, and a German page. Those are all great first steps, but to have true website globalization, you actually need to have a local URL. So, for example, if you're going to market to Canada, it's really important that you have a .ca, a company.ca URL, so that the local instance of Google will actually pick up your website through search engine optimization. There's a lot more to that. We have a webinar coming up on the 19th. If anyone is interested in participating in that, please let me know. We just sent the link out today. So get signed up for that if you're interested at all in learning more about that. And I apologize if anyone is asking questions or raising their hand. I am having trouble seeing that right now, so I will get to the end and then I'll come back to if there's any questions. Another new aspect to what the STEP grant can help pay for is international digital marketing. So if you want to put out some Facebook ads or Google AdWords or LinkedIn ads specifically targeting an international market, the STEP grant can reimburse 75% of that up to $10,000. And that can be for the production of it, a third-party contractor doing that for you, and it can be for the cost of the placements. And it can be over a long period of time, up to the 1 year of the STEP grant. We've had a lot more companies taking advantage of this as more become aware of it, and as the importance of digital marketing has increased because of folks not being able to travel and attend trade shows. I would recommend that if you're going to do this, the international digital marketing, you've really got to have the sister program, which is getting your website globalized, so that the user has a good first impression, a good first experience with your website. And again, you can refer back to the STEP grant to help out with that. You can also, if you need to protect your trademark or your patents in foreign markets, that would be called International Intellectual Property Protection, IPP. The STEP grant can reimburse 75% of the cost of that up to $6,000. And it can be for multiple markets over the full year. And depending on how you put that project together, you could do actually multiple grants to get that done. It's a great way to protect your patent or your trademark from being copied or stolen in those foreign markets. International compliance testing is another aspect of international marketing that the STEP grant can reimburse for, and that's 75% up to $6,000. So if you need a third-party contractor to help you with GDPR compliance, getting a CE mark, getting the Underwriters Laboratory or possibly the Canadian Standards Association certifications. If you're wondering what these marks look like or what international compliance testing entails, you can just look at the back of the power supply on your laptop. You see this picture here. All of the markings on that are considered international compliance markings and have standards and certification that typically has a cost and can actually be very expensive. And it can be a barrier to getting into certain markets. If you have a compliance issue, a compliance cost that isn't on the current list, but that you think is very relevant, you just need to run that by us first, and we can get that approved and get you reimbursed for the cost of that. If you have needs for foreign language translation, whether that be in-person translation, if you're at a trade show, if you're going on for a gold key meeting with buyers in person, or if you need your marketing materials translated, whether that's your brochures, your business card, or a marketing video that you need translated into several languages, and it can be printed out items as well. The STEP grant can reimburse up to 75% up to $6,000 for that as well. We don't maintain a list of translators, but as Kyle mentioned earlier, there are some online groups that can help connect you with a translator, and we can work with the U.S. Commercial Service in country to find you a native language speaker. Additionally, if you work with the Montana Online Global Program for your international digital marketing or your website globalization, they will connect you with a native language speaker in that country to make sure that you get accurate translation and not what is often the not very well done translation from Google Translate or other automatic services. This has been the most popular aspect of the STEP grant so far, is funds for exhibiting at international trade shows. Now, international trade shows can be those that are outside the United States. Those are already approved. They can be some domestic shows, and this is, excuse me, this is for shows that are held in the USA that have more than 10% of international buyers. So for example, the Natural Products Expo West, or pretty much any show that has international in the title is going to be approved. And if it isn't approved, then what we can do is help approve it through our trade show assistance program, which is specific for the domestic markets. So either way, trade shows that you're looking at, we can probably help with that. And this is a significant reimbursement. It's 75% up to $10,000. Additionally, you can get up to $2,000 for your travel expenses. And things are starting to open up a little bit. I've had a lot of companies are holding their spots for this year in the hopes that the international travel will open back up. Now, someone who's had a lot of experience with this and has used the STEP grant for it, I'm going to turn it over to Linda Miller. She's with Paradise Dental. Linda, if you're on the line, you can unmute and tell us about your experience. Oh, sorry, folks. Linda must be having troubles getting on. Sorry about that. But Linda has used the program for exhibiting at trade shows in Japan and China, and she's also used it for some domestic trade shows that have international buyers, and has really helped her to get out to these new markets. Now, this is a brand new aspect of the STEP grant. This is starting this month. If you work with the Export-Import Bank, XM, you can get 75% of reimbursed of the international credit insurance fees. Harold, here in a second, I'm going to have you hop on and talk about why XM has worked well for you. But I'll just say at this point, the SBA has left it fairly wide open as to what we can do with this. So we're still getting some of those details figured out, like what is the maximum that we can reimburse. But as far as I understand now, the maximum that we can reimburse is up to our maximum, that we set at $30,000 for each individual company. So you could really get after it and really cover yourself with these international credit insurance fees, and the STEP grant can help reimburse part of that. So Harold, if you want to hop on and talk about how you've used XM and what you suggest.
Good afternoon, Angie and everybody else that's here as well. Prior to me getting into the XM, I just wanted again just to reiterate what Kyle had already mentioned about the Final Rep partner search and the Gold Key. That's a very, very excellent, and Kerry as well, what he said, very excellent service. And I'm sorry that Linda was not on board to talk about the international trade shows, but again, Diversified Plastics has used both of those services as well, and excellent returns from the District Export Council. So I just want to put some plugs in for that. Regarding the XM, Import Bank of the United States. XM is the official export credit agency of the United States. XM is an independent executive branch agency with a mission of supporting American jobs by facilitating the export of U.S. goods and services. It is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. Pretty much XM assumes all credit and country risk that the small and or medium-sized U.S. company is unable or unwilling to accept. So it really opens that door as a good support or insurance for doing business overseas. You know, pretty much it provides protection against buyer non-payment. So if you have a buyer overseas that you ship goods to and you're waiting for payment, pretty much XM guarantees payment for that shipment. It provides, you know, again, the export credit insurance. Again, one thing for the U.S. exporters, for us, it's helping the world buy American products, helping other people outside the United States buy American products with confidence. How XM has actually impacted our business. The first and foremost is peace of mind in accepting purchase orders of any size or dollar value. It's insurance that once that shipment or order or shipment leaves our facility, we will get paid. And there's often terms, whether it be 30 days, 45 days, or what have you, but those terms are supported by EXIM. It opens up the door as well to establish international business developments and relationships. We've had some dealings with some customers in Denmark, South Africa, Australia, Singapore, that is suspect as to will we get paid if we ship out $100,000 worth of business. Well, with that EXIM insurance, we can go pretty much with confidence that we will get paid for our shipment going overseas. It's very low cost in the big scheme of things. For example, if you have an order for $100,000, the insurance fee for that would be $100, which is very, very minimum compared to the confidence and the assurance that you will get paid. So if there's any questions now or later, I'll be happy to talk about it. But it has definitely opened some doors for us to build business developments and relationships overseas.
Fantastic. Thank you, Harold. What I like to suggest for companies is to couple the U.S. Commercial Services International Company Profile, which is that due diligence service, with the EXIM International Credit Insurance. And that is a very successful combination for making sure that the buyer that you're working with is legitimate and that you will get paid. So I really like this new program. I'm excited to help companies get into this. We haven't had many Montana companies use the EXIM product, and so I'm really excited to get more companies and encourage them to use it. Outside of the STEP grant and handing out big bags of money to folks who need it to expand their markets and to really get their business going overseas, we do provide some exporter technical assistance, whether that's helping you get some trade statistics to look at what markets are buying your products, whether that's navigating some of the international regulations that apply to your business or your product. But also through our District Export Council, we provide a mentoring service. The members of our District Export Council are experienced exporters. They've dealt with the regulations, they've dealt with the shipping issues, they've dealt with overseas distributors or dealers or representatives. And so what we do is we can connect you that's having an exporter issue with one of our deck members or possibly any other Montana company that can help. But not a competitor, but someone who has experienced some of the same issues and has been successful with them. And so, Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you because she has benefited from some of this mentoring assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about a year ago, found out about this mentoring program and was placed with Diana. And then Angie and Carrie were also working with me the whole time. And that was really a perfect pair. Obviously, Angie and Carrie had a ton to offer. And Diana's company is a lot like ours, not at all competitive, but very similar type of product. And so it was just a perfect match for the mentoring. We met together, I don't know, a couple times over a couple weeks or months and worked through a strategic market expansion plan. And our company, we weren't brand new to exporting. We'd been doing it for years, but at a fairly small scale. So we were beyond entry level, but by no means experts in it. And so we started this process and we talked about, looking through the report right now, we looked at market research, we talked about market entry, we went over legal and compliance issues, talked about transportation, payments and financing, cultural elements, and just really worked through all the questions you need to ask and decisions you need to make to successfully begin exporting or grow your exports. And then we came away with a list of action items that it was just so clear what we needed to do, either areas where we had risks we weren't aware of that we needed to address to protect ourselves a little bit, or just other things we could do to strengthen ourselves as an exporter. We also came across a ton of these services Andrew's been talking about, and we're reminded of the funding for them. So we ultimately, through this mentorship, decided to take advantage of the RAISE market research, website globalization. We were looking at trade shows. Last year it wasn't really an option, but we identified some that would be really good fits in the future. And I'm not sure how many different programs we participated in and got funding for, but overall, it was just a really great program to sit down with, experts in the field who are so willing to make time and share their knowledge and just help us kind of level up in our export skills. It was well worth the time.
Great, thank you, Katie. The STEP grant funds will also help pay for what we call cooperative marketing opportunities, and those are some of those are listed here on this slide. So what we do is we pick very important international trade shows that have either the top international market for those products or emerging markets for those products in that industry. And we help to bring groups of up to 10 Montana companies to these trade shows. So what we do is we buy a large space within the show, like a 20 by 20 space within the show. We call it the Montana Pavilion. And then we break that large space up into smaller spaces. We call them kiosks. And then we let the Montana companies who are interested in testing out the market, testing out this show, we give those spaces to them for free and give them a $2,000 travel stipend for traveling to these countries, trying out the trade show. And so you basically bring a small box of your product and your brochures or your laptop, and you come with this group of Montana companies and we try out this trade show. And so I do all of the work to get the booth and the carpet and the lighting, all that stuff that is no fun and nobody wants to do and takes a bunch of time. And all you have to do is show up and promote your products. The 4 shows that we have planned, God willing, if travel is a possibility, are the IWA Outdoor Show. That's in Germany in March. And that is a hunting, camping, hiking, guns and ammo type show. And we'll have room for about 10 companies at that show. Then in April, we have a small group of fly fishing related products at the EWF show. It's called Experience the World of Fly Fishing. That coincidentally is also in Germany. It's one of the biggest consumer shows for those products. And so we're bringing a group of fly fishing companies there. In June, we're going to Exponor, which is a mining products and services trade show in Chile. Fingers crossed that the market will be open there. And then lastly, to help some companies that are made in Montana, to help them begin to grow to international markets, we're going to exhibit at the Alberta Gift and Home Show in Canada. Hopefully we have enough time for all this COVID mess to clear up a little bit, and travel into Canada will be a possibility at that time. But yeah, so we also encourage for these Montana pavilions that the companies work with the U.S. Commercial Service, our friend Carrie Hester, to connect with the trade specialists in country and to set up meetings so that they're not going to the trade show and just hoping that the right people will walk by, but they're going to the trade show with a roster of meetings that they've already set up, or possibly already have, through the international partner search, gotten a distributor set up ahead of time, and they're going to this show to begin supporting that distributor. Excuse me. Another cooperative marketing program that we provide funded through the STEP grant are trade missions. We haven't done much of these in the past because they tend to be very administratively burdensome, but we have found a way to make them work for Montana companies. So what we do is typically the first year we will start with a virtual trade mission. Pardon. We'll start with a virtual trade mission where we work with the U.S. Commercial Service in country to do an initial market check and an international partner search where we get a list of potential distributors or dealers or reps or buyers or connections with government entities, and we have the initial conversations through virtual means, through Teams or Zoom, and narrow that list down, or really make sure that who we're going to visit when we visit in person are really good connections. And then we follow up the next year with an in-person trade mission where you've already got a distributor in place and you're going with that distributor in country to do sales visits with potential buyers, or you're going there to seal the deal and really choose between a list of a couple different distributors. It's really customized to you, although it's a group of Montana companies and our staff that will travel to that country in person together. You spend your entire day on your customized itinerary, meeting with who you need to meet with. And then in the evenings, we try to schedule some country briefings with the U.S. Commercial Service, potential meetings with government partners, and if we have trade office people in countries such as Japan and Taiwan, we will meet with them at that time as well. So the markets we have planned for this coming STEP year, which is October through September, are looking at Canada, the UK, India, Central Europe, Japan and Taiwan, Mexico, and South Africa. And Tibor, if you're on the line, hopefully, fingers crossed. Darn, folks, I'm sorry. We must be having some technical difficulties getting people online because Tibor was going to come and talk about his participation in recent virtual trade missions and in anticipation of being on our in-person trade mission over the next year. But the virtual missions have been very successful, and that the success can be defined by either the traditional sense of the word, which is the company has a virtual trade mission in India and they find an awesome distributor and they start making connections and start making sales. Or the virtual missions have been successful in the opposite way, where a company says, boy, India is a fantastic market for me, or the UK is a great market for me. And through the virtual trade mission, they learn that the in-country competitors are too strong, or there are tariff issues or shipping issues. They learn that there are some issues that just make that market impossible for them, or they learn ways to change how they do their marketing to be more successful when they actually do get into the market. So I really like these because we have that two-tier process, and the first process gets kind of some of the less productive work out of the way without anybody actually having to travel. And then the second piece is you're traveling over there, and that travel should result in contracts and sales. So that's what we have planned for this coming year. Hopefully, international travel will open up. We did open a trade office in Taiwan this last month, and we've had an office in Japan for the last 20 years. And so those are Montana-specific offices. We do plan a trade mission there. And those offices, it's their entire job to help Montana companies get into that market or to see if that market is viable for them. So if you're interested in any of those, please let me know and we'll make sure that you get on the invitation list. And that is it, folks. That is the explanation of how to leverage STEP grant monies and other grant funds to help you expand your international sales. I'm going to exit out of this here, if you'll bear with me. And I'll stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to go on to the questions, and then on through the chat box. I'm looking, and it looks like there were no questions, but Kyle, thank you. He did share his suggestion for translation services, which is upworks.com. So folks, feel free to utilize that link there. And if you have any questions for Kyle, please let me know and I will get you connected. So for anybody that's on the call now, are there any other questions? If you're a little hesitant to speak up because it's weird when you interrupt other people, you can use the raise your hand tool, or just get out there and ask some questions. Okay, well, we must have done a great job presenting. Thank you, everybody from the District Export Council who was on the call today and helped explain these programs. If anyone has any questions, feel free to contact me. My email is adeyoung@mt.gov. Put that in the chat there. Feel free to ask me any questions. You can or you can look at the STEP grant. If you email, or excuse me, if you search Montana STEP grant, it should be the first link that comes up there. If you're interested in the Montana District Export Council, you can just type in Montana District Export Council and it should be the first link that comes up. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a good rest of your week and good luck.